turn it off.
No, it's on.
Oh, thank you. My silence his mic. Yay!
So, go ahead.
The lighting in here makes you look more handsome.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So we want to get started. There's snacks and drinks over there, and they've all been blessed. There is no. Can I see that real quick, please? Maybe your homework. All right. There's snacks and drinks over there. The snacks have been blessed. There's no calories. You just, when they're on church ground, there's no calories. We are going to have an amazing guest speaker. They're not even guest speakers. They are the reason. They're the thing. They're the blessing. They're the couple. You know, they are the ones that we are so grateful for, and so many others. But they have blessed us tremendously. They have been married for over 25 years. They're our marriage minister leaders here on staff. And they have 3 amazing children. And we are going to, did you want to say something?
Just want to say thank you everybody for being here today. Make sure and tell everybody that you know that are either married or thinking about getting married to come up on this class. It's a fantastic way to avoid the traffic that everybody's stuck in right now. And you're going to get fed and you're going to have some amazing things. If you all can make sure and grab your drinks, go ahead and come on and sit down. At this time, we're going to interview. Is there something you want to say?
Well, I just want to say they have a lot of material to cover. They're going to touch on it, and then we'll record it and we'll share it. We want to remind you that we have a marriage retreat coming in February at LeBlanc. Please go to Dream Marriage Retreat. They're going to be our amazing guest speakers again. So if you're interested, please reach out. And without further delay, give them the loudest round of applause. Stand to your feet, and we are going to welcome Ashlee, Pastor Ashlee, and Pastor Wayne.
Give it up for Jeff and Michelle.
Yes, give it up for Jeff and Michelle.
And Keith and Sarah. Keith's
He's bacheloring for what, 20 days? His wife is gone.
20 days? Because is she in Mexico still?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Ministering,
That's
preaching.
awesome.
You guys keep Sarah in your prayers. Thank you.
Awesome. Hey, just so you guys know, after every service, we have a marriage class up here. So if you decide to set your alarm early one Sunday morning and you come to the 8:30 service, we have a marriage class in here after the 8:30 service. If you want to sleep in and avoid the rain, you can come to the later service and we'll be up here at 12:45. So we always promise to have something good for you and to help and equip our marriages. So we're excited about what we want to share today. How many of y'all enjoyed Pastor Joel's message today?
So good.
To me, taking a moment every single day and asking yourself, who's on the throne? Who's on the throne of my heart? Who's on the throne of my life? Is it my image or is it God? You know, and not only do you have to do that for yourself, you have to do that for your relationship as well. You have to do that for your marriage as well. How many of you, this is your first time to come to marriage class? Raise your hand. Awesome. Glad you guys are here. For everybody that it's the first time, we always have you stand up and say the last 3 sentences. Just kidding. But we're glad that you guys are here. Feel free to come back as often as you can. So for this month, we've been talking about, really for the whole year, we've been talking about what love is and what love is not. And so this month, we've been focused in on how love is even-tempered and forgiving. Everybody say even-tempered and forgiving.
Even-tempered and forgiving.
So what is even-tempered? Even-tempered just means calm, cool, and collected, right? You may feel at times angry and upset, but when it comes to your spouse, you need to be even-tempered and you need to be forgiving. You know, and what we want to talk through today is just what that kind of grace and what grace really needs in your marriage and relationship.
Yeah, so when Clayton and I were praying and just meditating on the Word, we came across some scriptures in Colossians 3, and this is the Message version. And I love the Message version so much. We need to read in different versions, and you know, I would definitely tell you, hey, look and find the version that works best for you. I like to switch around. I like to look at different ones. I like to find ones that are really close to the way it was, you know, in the Greek or Hebrew. But the Message, if you don't know the story, and I don't have time to tell it right now, but Eugene Peterson, he was a pastor. He's passed away now. But the reason he wrote the Message is so cool. So I encourage you to look that up and read that. But, so the message is like a novel, and I just love it because it's so descriptive. But Colossians 3:12, I wanted to read this, but I want us to read it together because I think it's such a great message for our families and for our homes. So if you will, just read this with me. So chosen by God for this new life of love, dressed in the wardrobe God picked out for you. Compassion, kindness, humility, quiet strength, discipline. Be even-tempered, content with second place, quick to forgive an offense. Forgive as quickly and as completely as the Master forgave you. And regardless of what else you put on, wear love. It's your basic, all-purpose garment. Never be without it. Let the peace of Christ keep you in tune with each other, in step with each other. None of this going off and doing your own thing. And cultivate thankfulness. Let the word of Christ, the message, have the run of the house. Give it plenty of room in your lives. Instruct and direct one another using good common sense. And sing your hearts out to God. Let every detail in your lives, words, actions, whatever, be done in the name of the Master, Jesus, thanking God the Father every step of the way. Wow. Isn't that good? I love this so much. And like I said, I just love the message version so much because it's so descriptive. But just look at these things, quick to forgive, even tempered, wear love, peace of Christ, and this is my favorite, let the word of Christ, the message, have the run of your house. Isn't that amazing? Have the run of your house. But some of you might be sitting there thinking, okay, that sounds awesome, but you don't know what's going on in my house. I've got 5 kids running all over. I'm picking up diapers. I'm picking up throw up. I'm just glad if they get their teeth brushed. Or we don't get along so well, and it's frustrating. It's like, how do you do that? Well, what we want to present to you today is something that we learned back in the spring. We did this amazing course through XO Marriage out of Dallas. We get a lot of our curriculum from them. They're amazing. That's where Jimmy Evans, that's his ministry. And we went through a training on how to better counsel couples, and some things that we learned through that just really impacted us in our marriage. And I feel like if this is what you want for your home, we're going to show you how to do that today. And it's all about getting in line here and getting in alignment here. If you wake up every morning and have a heart check and say, okay, God, I'm going to look at these 4 things every morning with you and me. Just you and me. Has nothing to do with him. You and me. Now, let me look at these other 4 things that has everything to do with him and me that I've got to get in line. If you can do that, I believe you can create this kind of atmosphere in your home.
Yeah, what I loved about that was it said to wear love. That's a choice that we make every day, right? It's like putting on this jacket. I had a choice to put this jacket on today. I may not have felt like putting on this jacket because it's a little snug, but it still fits. But I had a choice to do that. And so every single day we have a choice to walk with God. We have a choice to walk hand in hand or in stride with our spouse. And so, like Ashley said, what we want to talk through today is really for us to have a heart check every morning. Because if I'm in alignment with God, it's a whole lot easier for she and I to be in alignment, right? Because if I'm not in alignment with God, if I'm kind of shying away or keeping things hidden from Him, even though He knows it anyway, I'm probably going to keep things hidden from her, and we're not going to be in that good of alignment. So, how many of you have ever seen pictures, or maybe some of you have had a chance to go see this tower that's in a small community called PISA in Italy? It was, I think we have a picture of that. It pops up. Yeah. So when the guys who created this tower, it actually was not leaning, and it took about 5 years for it to first begin to start tilting. One of the foundations underneath it, they didn't have the resources during the time that they built it to figure out what was underneath it, and sand was on one of the sides, and that's what caused it to slip over. They said it would have toppled over if it would have gone past 5 degrees. It actually got as far as 6 and never toppled over. But I believe it was in the late 30s, some engineers went in, they restructured it, they brought it back to about 4 degrees off, but they didn't want to put it perpendicular the way it was supposed to be, the way it was intended, because that's what it was known for. It was the Leaning Tower of Pisa, right? Well, what happens in alignment with God is that if you get to leaning to one side or the other, you can get out of alignment. Okay? And the reason we call it PISA is because it stands for these 4 things, PISA. And we're going to put those up. And the next slide, click it forward. The first one is purpose, your identity, your security, and your acceptance. PISA. So if we are in alignment with God, these 4 things are going to be in alignment as well. But if we start leaning to one side or one thing or another, we'll get out of alignment with God. So I'm going to cover the first one, purpose. Purpose, does what I do matter? These are the questions that I ask myself. Is what I do matter? How do you know? Is it based on what others say about me, or about my spouse, or my friends, or my kids, or my extended family? Or is what God says for my purpose matter? So my purpose is anchored, and my alignment with God is anchored in Him. So my purpose in life is to love God and love people. It's not necessarily to be a pastor, it's not necessarily to help people with marriages, but it's to love God and then ultimately love people. And if I can do that, and my security and my purpose is found in God, well then it sure makes this alignment a lot better. So the first thing is to remember in that PISA is to stand in your purpose with God.
The next one is identity, and this one is, who am I? Is your identity based on what you think of yourself, what your spouse thinks about you, what about your work, your accomplishments, your kid, God? This one's always really challenging for me. I think there have been voices inside of my head from my childhood, through my teenage years, young adult, that have told me I'm not good enough, that I don't measure up. I was talking to one of my friends the other day, and this girl is amazing. I mean, she can do it all, and she just gets it done before I've even had breakfast. I'm like, girl, you are so amazing. And she was just sharing with me the other day, because I was going through these with her, and she said, I really struggle with identity. And I was like, you do? Wow, you seem so on it, and like you just are getting things done. You've got this amazing family. And she said, yeah. She said, and I figured out that it's from a voice that I heard as a child. My mom was always pushing me to do more. It was never enough. It was never enough. I always had to accomplish this, and this. And she said, and I still hear that voice inside of my head all these years later. And, I've forgiven my mom, and we have this great relationship now. She goes, but that voice, I just can't get rid of that voice saying, you know what, you're not good enough. You got to do more. You got to get better at what you're doing. And I said, do you understand how important it is for you to see yourself the way God sees you? You're putting so much pressure on yourself. You could still do all those things, but yet have the peace that passes all understanding because you're a Christian, if you would just let those voices go and hear what God has to say about you. And let me just show you, if you'll go to the next slide, to the next one with all the words. Yeah. Anybody recognize this? What is that? This is the declaration we say every week that Pastor Joel has us say. I am blessed, prosperous, redeemed, forgiven, talented, creative, confident, secure, disciplined, focused, prepared, qualified, motivated, valuable, free, determined, equipped, empowered, anointed, accepted, and approved. Not average, not mediocre. I am a child of the Most High God. I will become all I was created to be in Jesus' name. Why does Pastor Joel have to say that every week? Not because it has some kind of magical powers. Not because he's a really positive guy and wants us to be positive too. He's reminding us what God says about us. Every week he wants to remind you, this is how God sees you. This is what he created you to be. You're not those voices inside of your head, or you're not that person that, that you were told you're not good enough by maybe a parent or an adult or somebody in your life that said you didn't measure up. That's not who you are. You are who God says you are. And I think it makes it a little bit easier to understand that when you think about the grace that God's given us. We don't have to measure up. Do you realize that we have a God that just wants a relationship with us. You know, there's other gods out there that people serve, and it's all about measuring up and getting points. It's all about works. With us, with Jesus, it's not about that. It's just about a relationship. He just wants a relationship with you. He's the only God out there, which I don't believe the other gods, but if you look at what other people believe, it's all about measuring up in works. Our God's just about a relationship. That's all He wants. And this is who you are in His eyes. When we were driving in this morning, my daughter's in the worship team in Kids Life, and so we're always listening to the songs that she has to sing. And today it was the song, How He Loves Us. Do you guys know that song? Yes. It just repeats the chorus a lot. How He loves us. Oh, how He loves us. He loves us. He loves us. And there's one part in the verse that says, if grace was an ocean, we would all be sinking. That's how much He loves you. That's how much He loves you. His grace is sufficient for you. All of that He took on the cross for you and made this is you right here. So when you say that every week in church, remember that. It's not a magic potion. It's not being positive. It's God saying, this is who you are. This is who I created you to be. I didn't share this in person, but I just thought of this story. It's a different one than the one I shared before, but Rick Warren, I listen to him a lot of times when I'm exercising. He's a pastor out of California. He said, you know what hell would be like for me? Is if I sat in front of God and He showed me all the things I could have done if I would have just believed. If I would have just believed His word and believed I am who God says I am. Isn't that amazing? He also told another story that he was mentoring a multi-million-dollar businessman. He said this guy was a master at deals and making money. He had everything he could possibly want in the world. And Rick asked him, why do you want me to mentor? He goes, I'm just curious. Why are you interested in salvation in Christ? You have everything. You know, what is it? He said, when I understood what grace is, he said, I realized I could never get a better deal than that. It's understanding what grace is. Grace is a gift for us. And when you understand what it is, you understand that this is who you are.
And I think you have to receive, obviously we have to receive that grace. It's a gift. So we have to receive that grace. And I think that's the thing that we have to do every single day. You wake up in the morning, when you go through this PISA, purpose, identity, security, you have to receive that grace. You know what, God, I receive your grace for the day. Because what's important is not just that you receive it for yourself, but that you have it to then give to your spouse. That you are able to give them the same grace that you receive. Because you know what, they may be in a place where they're not receiving that grace. Maybe they're out of alignment and they need to receive grace. Well, sometimes you can be that one to model the grace that you've received from God. And so as a spouse, it's important that I stay in alignment with God, not just for myself, but it also benefits her.
The next one is security. Am I safe? What do you depend on for your security and safety? What is your sense of security based on? Marriage, spouse, kids, money, God? This one was another big one for me because as a woman and a wife, I'm sure you guys have heard this from many of our teachers in the class, most women's number one need is security. And I need some of that from him. I need to know that everything's okay. I need him to talk to me. I need him to tell me, like, you know, where are we at with our finances? Let's talk about this. You know, let's talk about our kids. Tell me what's going on inside here. You know, for a long time at the beginning of our marriage, he stopped talking to me because, you know, he's going to talk about this later. He went from, well, I'll wait and let you share that. But he went from pursuing me to providing for me, and we never talked. And so I felt very insecure. My love language is quality time. And so when he stopped talking to me like he did when we were dating, I had so many insecurities. And so when we started going to marriage classes, reading books, and we learned these things, he was like, security is really that important to you? And I said, yeah, like the air I breathe, it's important to me. I need to talk. I need you to talk to me. It's so, so important. I feel very disconnected from you if you don't share things with me. But my ultimate security has got to come from God. You know what I mean? The fears that I feel, especially as a mom, oh my goodness, so many fears as a mom. You know, are my kids going to be okay? Are they going to be safe? Sending our daughter off to college, is she going to be okay? You know, I've got to give that to God. His perfect love drives out fear. I've got to put that on him. I've heard somebody say before, the only thing we should, what's it say? The only thing we should be, I don't remember. It'll come to me. But anyway, it's good. As Pastor Joel says, it's good, it'll come back around. But basically, the only thing we should be taking to the throne is our needs and leaving them there for him. And then we walk away and we say, okay, God, you've got this. My security ultimately is from you.
Great. All right, the next one, acceptance. Finishing out the PISA, acceptance. Am I loved? How much emphasis do I put on my spouse, on my friends, on my extended family, kids to validate that I'm loved? Or is it ultimately coming that I'm loved from God? And I think that's the most important thing, to realize that I'm accepted just how I am. I don't have to perform. I don't have to, I've heard people say, well, let me just clean myself up before I go to church. Let me just get myself clean. Let me just get right with God. Before God's like, I'll take you the way you are right now. That's how much he loves us. That's how much there's grace for us. But realizing that I'm accepted who I am, I think it goes to security and all the others that we pick. I've said this before, I'm going to pick on somebody just at random, over here, jacket, white shirt. What's your name? Jose. Jose, do you realize, and I could have picked out anybody, Jose, do you realize there has never in the history of time ever been another Jose like you? Do you realize that there will never be another Jose like you until Jesus comes back? So you are literally a masterpiece. Nobody has your thumbprint, nobody has your voice print. That's how God has created you. Apparently we're under a thunderstorm or something. But that speaks to your acceptance. And I think a lot of times we have to remind ourselves what God says about us. Is everything okay? Is
Yes.
the weather okay? And brother, okay. God help me find it. Okay. But it goes back to setting your mind right every single morning. Every single morning before I get out of bed, okay, God, do I have my purpose anchored in you? Is my identity in you? Is my security in you? Do I realize that I'm still accepted today, just like I was when I first made you my Lord? And that is every single day before I roll out of bed, I've got to do that. Here's one last example. Can I use you guys? I know it's your first time. I'm sorry. Just for a second. Come right up here. I promise. It'll be easy. It'll be super easy. So let's pretend that we're at your wedding. Come around and face the preacher. Except she's playing God on this one.
Playing God.
But
So y'all
turn to each other.
face each other and
Hold hands. Okay, what's your name?
Brandon.
Brandon?
Valerie.
Valerie, that's my sister's name. That's easy. So Brandon and Valerie, right? Whenever they got married and they were close to the preacher, she's representing God now. So when you're close with God, you're also close with your spouse, right? And there's no wiggle room right in here. I can't jump in there, right? But all of a sudden, we start thinking differently. We start thinking differently in our purpose, in our identity, in our security, all the different ones. And I'm going to pick on Brandon. And Brandon's going to start thinking differently. And all of a sudden, walk backwards with me. Sorry. All of a sudden, there's now a little space because he's not thinking the way God created him to think. And doesn't remember the things that God assured him. And then all of a sudden, thoughts start coming to his mind. And he gets a little bit further away from God and his spouse. All right? He starts thinking a little bit differently. He's not lining things up with the way God says about him. And now there's a lot more playroom for the enemy to come in and whisper to his spouse, I don't think he really likes you anymore. I think he's going down a dark path. And, it's just going to end up the way it's always ended up. And I just don't know if it's going to work out or not. And then he comes back over here, and all this room that's in between the two of them, the devil's saying things to him that's causing him to question his purpose, his identity, his security, right? But he's also saying different things to Valerie as well. And when we get away from God and we get away from our spouse, then there's a lot of playground for the enemy to run in. Thank you guys, appreciate it. So every morning, we're making sure that we're not leaning to one way or another. We're staying directly in line with what God says about us so that we can move forward in that hardship. All right. The next thing we're going to jump into are the 4 laws. So the four laws of love, this is derived from Jimmy Evans' book, The Four Laws of Love. It comes out of Genesis 2. And basically, I don't know if you realize this, but God created marriage, right? God created marriage before he created the church. You realize that, right? How important marriage is to God. He said it's not good for a man to be alone, so he made Eve, right? And the two shall become one. So we're going to talk about these 4 P's. They look like tires, if y'all like my artistic ability here. So imagine you have these 4 tires for your life, right, or for your relationship, and these 4 P's: priority, pursuit, partnership, and purity, deal with how we talked about this is the PISA, Lady Tower PISA. Now my relationship with Ashley, okay? And we're going to talk through the priority. Now the problem is if one of these tires goes flat or begins to go flat, or we get out of alignment. I don't know if you've ever driven a car and it got out of alignment. It's not a fun car to drive. My old car, whenever I would hit the brakes, the car was so bad out of alignment, the front end would have a party, and it would just shake, like all the way down until I stopped. But, so the first one, priority, it's based in Genesis 2:24. Therefore, a man shall leave his father and mother, okay? So, in other words, God said, hey, when you leave and go and get married to your spouse, they're a priority. You need to go after them, okay?
And one thing I want to point out that we didn't say before, and how do you know this is for us? Because Adam didn't have a father and mother. It said a man shall leave his father and mother. That's for us, right? I know.
Yeah. Leave means to let go, reprioritize, and make marriage your priority with a positive attitude, with energy. Sometimes that means when you come home from work, I'm just speaking to the men, when you come home from work and you're in the driveway and you're exhausted, that's when you pray, God, I need energy. I'm about to go in this house, and my wife needs to be my top priority. My family, my kids come second and third and fourth, right? She comes first. She needs to be my home. So God, I need energy, I need health, I need wellness. My kids sometimes get angry, and I know there's some kids in the room. I go kiss her first, right? Because she's my priority. I go kiss her first and say, y'all can wait. I mean, y'all are going to leave one day. They don't realize it, but they are. Anyway, also, men, when we were, is this right priority? No, this is next week. All right, so number 1 is priority. So it's the difference between making it a priority versus importance, or versus being important. So something may be important, but marriage has got to be the priority. All right? Second thing, pursuit. Pursuit, Genesis 2:4 again says, and he shall leave and cleave unto his wife. He shall cleave to his wife. Cleave means to pursue with all energy. All the men said, all energy. I'm just picking on the men. Be willing to serve one another joyfully, unselfishly. Everybody say unselfishly.
Unselfishly.
Side note, do you know the number 1 reason, or the number 1 cause for separation or divorce is? People used to think it was communication, finances, intimacy. It's pride. Because if you look at Ephesians 5, where God is explaining how to be a great husband, how to be a great wife, verse 21 says, submit one to another. Submission is the number 1 way to have a successful marriage. Well, yeah, my wife should submit to me. No. It takes both. Submission is on both sides. That's how you have a successful marriage. So, to pursue, sorry, I got off on a tangent, I'm back now. Pursue. So you have to pursue each other, to cleave to your wife. Men, when you were dating your girlfriend, who's now your wife, hopefully, when you were pursuing her, you did everything for her. You called her, you spent so many hours on the phone. No, you didn't. No, you hadn't. You left notes. Maybe you wrote down poetry, right? You bought flowers. You were doing whatever it took to pursue her, right? Hey, let's go out on a date. Oh, it's not too expensive. You take whatever you want, right? And then the day came, and she said, I do. And you had her. I caught her. She said, I do. And then it switched from pursuer to provider. I gotta go get a job. I gotta provide for my family. And then what happens? Typically in marriages, we stop pursuing and we start providing, or we have kids, or a job, or whatever it's, I love you, honey. And this isn't the priority anymore. Last night, I'm still in love with my wife. I still pursue her. Last night, I came around the corner in the kitchen, and there she was. I mean, gosh, she's gorgeous. I walked up to her, we started hugging and kissing on each other. My 15-year-old daughter said, "Ugh, would you stop?" I'm like, "Would you rather us yell and fight all the time?" She goes, "Yes, sometimes I think I would."
She was joking.
But she was joking. But what we're also doing is we're modeling to our kids, this is what marriage is. It's not perfect, but we pursue each other. But because we're keeping this in alignment, now we can keep this in alignment as well.
It's good, babe. It's good. The next one is partnership. And the two shall be one flesh, Genesis 2:24. Marriage is about sharing everything. Make a commitment to be married for life, be sexually faithful, stay connected, and grow in your relationship with Christ. Oh, I thought you were going to say something there.
I'm sorry, I was swallowing. I was going to say amen.
We were laughing at this one because I shared this earlier. There's not. Okay, we're good. My daughter, she's not in here, right? Okay, good. Last night, the sexually faithful. Last night, I was studying this in my bed, and my daughter came in, my 15-year-old, came in and said, "Can I get a shower in your bathroom? I'm out of shampoo." And I was like, "Yeah, that's fine." So she goes in there, and she was like, "I need to borrow some of your clothes. I forgot to bring clothes." And I'm like, "Fine, whatever, closet's in there too." And she came out, and she goes, "I saw what you had hidden in your closet." And I was like, "What do I have hidden in my closet?" I'm like, "What's in there? I don't know what's in there." She goes, "Oh, I saw it. I saw it in your drawer." And I'm like, "What did you see?" She goes, "I saw that lingerie." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And she goes, I said, "Yeah." She goes, "And there were gloves in there too." And I'm like, "That's for the winter." Like, what are you like, those are winter gloves. And she goes, "Well, I saw it, and it was lacy." She goes, "I get why you have it, but I still think it's disgusting." I was like, "Great, go use your bathroom." But you know what I mean? You're in partnership together. In every area of your marriage, there is a partnership there. And, we're together in everything we do, every decision we make. We have to remember we are fighting for each other, not against each other. We are teammates. One of our teachers always says that you need to be your spouse's biggest cheerleader, not their biggest referee. Right? We're in partnership together. And sometimes it means you might need to be a silent partner, where you're doing things to help out the other spouse without expecting, like, "Hey, I did this, and I did that, and I did the dishes, and I cleaned up this. Are you going to tell me how awesome I am?" Sometimes it's a silent partnership, where you're just getting in there and you're doing it because you are choosing love. Love's a choice we have to make every day. I learned something new about my husband. We were at dinner with Jeff and Michelle, and we were sitting in a booth, and I always try to get to a booth quickly so that I can sit in a certain spot because I'm left-handed. And so, are there any left-handers in the room? Yeah, okay, so you got to strategically think about where you sit, because if I don't sit in the right spot, if I end up on this side, we're bumping the whole time while we're eating. And so I'm always thinking about where I'm going to sit. And so, anyway, we ended up talking about that because Jeff has a certain place he likes to sit for certain reasons, and we were just talking, and I was like, "Yeah, I like to sit on this side so that I don't bump into Clayton." Clayton's like, "Yeah, and if it ends up where she can, I just use my other hand to eat." I was like, "What?" I didn't know that. He just kind of said it nonchalantly. I was like, "How long have you been doing that?" He was like, "I don't know, forever." I'm like, "So for 26 years, you've been eating with your left hand if we sit on that side, and I didn't even know?" He was like, "Yeah, sure, it's not a big deal." And I'm like, "It is a big deal." I'm like, wow. Silent partnership. He didn't brag and say, "Well, I sit over here." But he's never mentioned it. He just casually mentioned it because we were talking about where we sit. And that was it. Silent partnership. Do things for your spouse and don't expect anything in return.
Okay, let's go.
Last one. Purity. Be completely humble and gentle. Be patient, bearing with one another in love. Ephesians 4:2. And I love what this says. Marriage should be a safe place to get naked with one another. Intimacy is only possible when there is unhindered access emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and physically. Trust is the bridge to intimacy. Repenting, taking responsibility, and forgiving one another helps rebuild the bond of trust in marriage. Vulnerability in marriage is so important. It's so important not to hold things in and not share things with your spouse. And sometimes I think that might be a little bit easier for women than it is for men. Not always, but sometimes. But there was a time several years ago that Clayton had something happen to him as a child, and he had never told anybody about it. And it was just, at that point, it was just really bothering him. The enemy was just really having a foothold on his thoughts and what happened to him. And he was just like, I need to talk to Ashlee about this. I need to talk to Ashlee about this. And but I think he was scared of what I was going to think and what happened. And so anyway, he came to me and he said, hey, I just want to share this with you. And I've been really nervous. I've been praying about it, but I've got to tell you because it's killing me inside. And I said, okay, tell me. And so he told me, and I kind of thought about it and listened to what he said. And then I looked at him and I said, you know what? It's one of the sexiest things you could have ever said to me. And he was like, what? He's like in tears. He's like, what? And I said, the fact that you would trust me with something so hard for you to share and so private, the fact that you trust me, oh my goodness, means the world to me. You don't even understand. Vulnerability, you guys, means so much to your spouse. I don't know if I'm alone, but women, right? We love that.
I was like, what else can I think of? That was traumatic that I could share with you. But we hope this helps, because I think in the morning when you wake up, God says He gives us mercies every morning. His mercies are new every morning. So when you wake up, make sure your alignment with God is intact, right? Your purpose is in Him, your identity is in Him, security, acceptance. And then you're turning it into your spouse. And you're going through these, and you want to make sure that you are pursuing, you're making it a priority, you're in partnership, and you're doing things with purity, because then you're not out of alignment, and you can move forward with what God has for you. Before Jeff and Michelle come to close us out, we've got two things we want to do. One is we've got the 4 Laws of Love, the book. We've got these that we're going to bless somebody.
Michelle, bless somebody.
Michelle, bless
one couple for each.
Where's that couple?
And then this
That
is
couple
something that
that's
we
going to
want
business together.
bless a couple with. We highly recommend this, no matter how long you've been married, okay? It's called the 21-Day Inner Healing. It's a devotional that we're going to give these two away to one couple. They sell them down in the bookstore. You can also get them online. We went through this back in the spring. It's a life-changing book. But it basically deals with things that you've been dealing with on the inside. And it really is great to go through individually and then come together as a couple.
It's your own devotional to do yourself. And if you are struggling with any of those 4 of the PISA that we said, this book will help you with that. And so she gave one to one couple and one to the other, so the other person needs to go buy the other copy for you to do it yourself. It's worth every penny. It goes there, and it helps you work out maybe some unforgiveness you've had from the past. It's really, 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 really good. It's by Jim Evans.
Last thing, as you leave, you got an assignment, right? My parents, this past week, my mom would still be alive. They would have celebrated 60 years of marriage. On their 55th wedding anniversary, they came here to our marriage conference, Spark, which is happening November 11th and 12th here. They come up in a couple months. But they were here, we were able to honor them. But I'll never forget when my mom told me, I said, Mom, why are you coming to Spark? I'm like, it's your 55th. Go cruise, go to the French Riviera, go sail around the world. She goes, Clayton, we've realized that the moment we stop learning, it'll be the day we stop growing in our marriage. So I want to encourage you to every day grow in your marriage. Your marriage will only get better or it will only get worse.
Yeah.
I'll say that again. Your marriage is either always getting better or it's getting worse. So as you do these things, it will constantly get better. We're better today, 26 years in, and I know that we'll be even better when we're 50 years in, right? More love, more patience, more grace. This is an assignment we have for you. everything that y'all are taking pictures of on the screen, we got it right here for you. Sorry, I should have told you earlier. But it basically goes through the four laws of love, and it goes through the PISA, and then there's questions at the bottom. I double dog dare you, which means you have to do it. And if you're old enough to remember that, okay, so double dog dare. There's questions at the bottom of it that I double dog dare you to fill out for yourself, and then take it on a date night and share it with your spouse. So, because sometimes I have guys tell me, how are you vulnerable? How are you open? How do you share things with your spouse like that? It takes stuff like this. Give me a list. Let me do it. Give me an assignment. So we're taking the guesswork out for you. And all the ladies are like, yes, that sounds amazing. Let's go do it. Talk and share our feelings. But I promise you, this will be good. It's great to invest in your marriage. So double dog dare you to do that. Jeff, Michelle, thanks for
Thank you,
sharing.
guys.
Let's give them a huge round of applause. So, we want to remind you guys, we blessed 4 people. I didn't follow instructions. We were supposed to give 2 and 2. Please get that book. It's been life-changing. That inner healing is what we've been talking about every single week. Is that 21 days?
That is correct.
Yes. So we're going to pray you guys out. We also have prayer partners here in the back. If you guys need prayer or want prayer for yourself or anyone in your family, please stop and see them afterwards. And remember, we have a marriage class after each service every Sunday. We also have a class on Zoom once a month. It's the last Sunday of the month, so it'll be next Sunday.
And a great way to be able to find that out is this little QR code that you see up here on the screen. That's Lakewood Marriage. Everything that you need, all resources, all connections, all dates, all schedules, everything. Just grab that QR code.
You can also text 77377 and put marriage in there, and you will get the link for those classes. You'll get Spark coming up, you'll get everything else. What you won't get is what I told you at the beginning, which is what me and Jeff do every year. It's a marriage retreat. It's phenomenal, and it's in this amazing resort, and you have to look it up either on Facebook or Instagram or email us, and it is Marriage Retreat.
www.dreammarriageretreat.com.
Dream Marriage Retreat.
It's so you can actually go to the website, dreammarriageretreat.com.
All right, we're going to pray you guys out. You want to pray or you want me to?
Go ahead.
Father God, thank you for what Pastor Joel spoke today about our identity. Father, and thank you what Ashley and Clayton just sealed it up and did a full circle around it. Father, thank you that each and every person here is loved, knows that they are loved, accepted, approved. And Father, may each and every one of us know what PISA is for us, with our purpose and security and identity and everything else they shared with us today, Father. May each couple leave here and not just listen and not just put these books on the shelf or never order them, Father. May we get them, may we do the acts and works to get better. And Father, the more we draw closer to you, the closer we draw to each other. Father, we thank you for each marriage. We thank you for the marriages here. We thank you for the marriages that will watch this online. And Father, teach us how to love and understand the gift you have given us, which is our spouse. We love you and praise you in Jesus' mighty name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Thank you guys. Thank you. Thank you all volunteers that put this together. Thank you. Thank you. This is our new home, guys.